All right.
Hello, everybody. We're back. The Lead with Empower podcast is back. Zach, how we doing, man? It's not single digits. Summer.
That's it. I was just gonna say that it feels great outside, and it's 33 degrees out. But
Yeah.
that's a big one today.
Now, excited to jump back on. We're just getting back from an awesome program we had up at Hartford Public High School with a group of about 65, 70 ninth grade students who have been identified as students that are kind of kicking butt in their first year, doing things the right way. So if our voices are a little hoarse, hope you understand why. We were hooting and hollering, having a grand old time up there at Hartford High School today. Thanks to them for a great couple hours of some team building fun today.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. There was a good amount of kids, but you could tell why they were there.
Yep. Definitely handling their business, which is always important. So we got a fun couple topics today. So we're recording a couple episodes this afternoon. What are we getting into today, Zach? What's on the agenda?
Okay. So the topic today is planning of the start, planning of the middle, and not the end. So we're talking about students, athletes, corporate, whatever you want to call it, that look at an activity and really dive into how to start this activity and how to do it, but not how to finish it.
Yeah. And as facilitators, this is something we see all the time. And for those of you in education, coaching, or even in the corporate adult world, we see it so often where we explain, and again, we're going to kind of touch on the team building side of things to kick things off, but where we'll explain an activity, explain the rules and what the goal is, and what resources the group has available to them, and then right out of the gate, it's all right. We're going to give you a couple minutes of strategy time, and some groups embrace that strategy time a little bit better than others, but what we'll notice is that groups will dedicate pretty much 100% of their energy and focus on the first couple feet of the activity, and then maybe the middle section, and they'll put forth that effort. They'll start to execute their plan, and things are going swimmingly. The group, they finally kind of work through some of the kinks. They're able to get the activity started or the initiative started. They start making some serious progress towards the finish line, whatever this finish line might be. Mm-hmm. And then they arrive to the finishing area, and they have no idea what to do.
Yep.
And they miss the bucket. They break a rule, 97% of the way through. Mm-hmm. And it's this mad dash back to the beginning to do the same thing again.
Yep. And you see it, like you said earlier, you see it over and over and over again. And as facilitators, like leading an activity that you've seen 1,000 times, you wait for it. Like it's coming. You let them make that mistake. But it's interesting how often you see that people don't prepare to finish. And you say in your own life, like, yeah, well, I don't do that. Like, yeah, you do. Everyone does.
Probably do.
You probably do. Everyone does. And like you because we see it so often, it's hard to compare to ourselves. Like, we know this game inside and out. We know how to finish it 100% every time. But if it's a new activity, is it something that you would really do? And it's interesting to put it into that perspective with, okay, what is their thought process and why aren't they finishing?
Yeah. And what ends up happening, and the beauty of doing this in like this perceived risk versus real risk, like there's not a lot of real risk in what we do. So mm-hmm. when Zach talks about like, hey, let them have that struggle, let them have that failure. But it's amazing, to a T, groups will hash out the beginning, and then almost by default, when they figure out the beginning, they kind of figure out the middle section of the activity as well. And they'll become proficient, and they might not finish it, but then they start to approach the 90+% almost complete mark, and then there's a mess up, there's a rules break, and they run back, and then they try it again. And the same thing will happen where they'll be proficient for 90+% of the challenge, get to that last 10%, struggle again. And it's amazing. We'll see frustration start to mount. Oh my goodness, we've done this 90% chunk of this experience 10 times in a row, and we still can't complete the task. We can't get the ball in the bucket. We can't get everybody across the finish line. And right around that time, when the kind of, I guess we'll call it, the water starts to boil and starts to approach the top of the pot that it's in, is when, we might step in and say, hey, have you thought, before you go back to restart, have you thought about practicing what the end is going to look like and feel like?
Yep.
And it's like fireworks go off.
Like I said, every single time too. And I mean, look at people that will like be able to finish well on their, 10th, 13th try, and they understand, okay, this is how it's done. But for the majority of people, I don't want to call it losing. No one's losing, but they're not getting the ball in the bucket. They're not getting past the finish line altogether, or whatever activity that we're doing. And you see frustrations arise in all different categories. You see people start blaming each other. You see people pointing fingers. You see all these different types of way of failing happen, and frustration. And what ends up happening is that people will start losing interest in the activities. People will, start giving up, or visually like getting, how they say, seeing red. Like they're getting so hot about not finishing that they have to step away. And it's because they didn't plan for that last 10% part of the activity. And I've seen it like higher end athletes. They'll get to the bucket 5, 6, 7 times in a row and not get the ball inside. And another problem will be, someone wants to be the hero. They want to get all the attention. They want to be the one to drop the ball, or they're like, oh, they have this strategy. They're going to create a wall in the back, but in reality, you're blocking your person from getting the ball. There's so many facilitating points you can make from not being able to finish.
100%. And I love what you touched on about the finger pointing and the blame game, and like that, all of that frustration from doing 90% of the work just to have to turn around and restart because there's not some sort of structure within their plan to say, all right, once we get to this point, we get close to the finish line, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to execute to sign, seal, and deliver, finish the task. And it bleeds over. You'll see any group, adult, youth, you'll see groups that have proficiency through the first 90% because of that continued, again, we'll call it failure, that they haven't completed the task. Because of those continued struggles, it starts to bleed over into the start and the middle of the activity as well. So a group that was proficient suddenly is now facing these challenges from the start cone as opposed to the finishing line. So what do we do about it? Right?
Yeah.
It's extra work. It's extra work. Don't get me wrong, it's extra work, but I always like to kind of think differently about, would I rather put in the extra work at the start of something than have to do the dang task 500 times before we, kind of luck into what it's going to look like at the end. Oh, we don't need to plan about that. We're just going to figure it out. And we just talked about what happens when that is the approach. They struggle. They don't take the time to figure it out. And that struggle continues to bleed into everything else that they're doing, to a point where they can't even start the activity anymore. And it turns into almost, again, we talk a lot about momentum. Positive momentum, it can be unstoppable. Negative momentum can also be unstoppable. So what do we do about it? And again, this can apply to anything. Right? It could be some sort of team building activity. It could be a project that you're working on at your office for work, or a school project. It could be a goal that you have as a middle, high school, college student or student athlete. Obviously, identifying what the end vision is. I want to graduate in 4 years with at least 3.0 GPA, or I want to play X amount of minutes over the course of the season. Start with the end goal in mind, and then you almost reverse engineer your plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. This is where I want to get. What's our first step, or what are our first 5 steps? Okay, great. This is what's going to happen during these first 5 steps. What do we think we're going to experience in this middle section? You know what? Hey, I'm halfway through the school year. I'm at like a 2.7, right? I want to get to that 3.0 goal or higher by the end of the year. What might I be facing as a challenge, and what can I be ready to do to overcome it? Okay, what's that last 3%? What's that last 5%? So when you get to that point where you are approaching the finish line, it's not a scramble. It's not a holy crap, we don't know what to do and everything falls apart. It's now we have a plan in place for not only starting the drill, not only getting through the minutia of the middle part. Mm-hmm. Now we also know what we're going to do when we get close to that finish line, and we're going to be able to go in and execute. And if you look at sport, right? And I'll use football as an example. Coaches coach for 2-minute drills, victory offense, onside kick, all of these different things that might not happen ever over the course of a season. But when you are, and it's down to crunch time,
you have it.
You don't have to learn it. You don't have to. It's there, and it's about executing that end so you can finish the drill. Anybody can start something. Special people are able to see it through the finish line and finish the drill.
Yeah, I mean, I have some examples of that too, where I don't want to say the corporate world, but when I worked in sales, there's a terminology we said, it's called reverse engineer a problem. So if our problem on the first of the month is that we need, 300 sales by the 31st of the month, that looks like a lot of sales. Like that looks like a lot of work to get there, but we reverse engineer it. That's your goal. Boom. You have it. You know what the end goal is supposed to look like. Let's break that down over 31 days. Figure out how many that is per day, how many employees you have working on it, and what they need to do. And what's really cool about that reverse engineer process is not only do you have the finish line extremely specific, but now you're breaking down how to get there. And not just that, we'll reverse engineer every single day. So it's not just a first of the month thing. You're like, okay, we did all the math, did all the work. This is what we need to do per day. Go and do it. Good luck. You figure out what you did on the first, and on the second, do it again and see like how much closer and further you are away from 300 or whatever your goal is. But you'll always have that end goal in mind and how to get there. Another one too is like when I like how you related to the real world. If you're going to start something, obviously it's generic to say, I want to start something, I'm going to finish it. It's so easy to start. Anyone could start. Like I have water on my desk. I'm drinking more water today. Like that's my start. But it's the hard part is, can you do it over, days, weeks, and months? And where's that finish line? Where's that clear goal? How, like in that plan to get there? So when you see people in the activities not finishing, it's an example of like, okay, instead of having them rush to the start and start again, and they're gonna make the same mistake again. I don't care how many times they try. If they don't sit down and be like, okay, hold on. I know the other team might be getting ahead right now, but let's take 2 minutes to re-strategize our end game this time. And a great example I wanted to bring up was, it was so rare that I remember it specifically. A group of high school students, when they first got to the bucket, it was like their first or second try, they missed. And then one kid was like, hey, can we practice just putting it in the bucket? None of the points will count. We just want to make sure that we know how to do it. And my mind was blown.
Like, yes, please do it. Please do it.
Yes, I'm like, please do that, and I will support stopping your team to figure out how to do it. And that team got more points than I've seen like all 2025, just because like they practiced that hardest part. Not really a hard part, but they had it down before having to get there.
Yeah, so I think like, and obviously this can apply to just about anything. Zach and I spend most of our days in this team building environment where essentially every team building initiative is about moving people or moving objects from start to finish. But I think when you're about to embark on any sort of journey, whether it's get through a school day or a week, whether it's some sort of accomplishment in athletics or performing arts or whatever it might be, the level of preparation that you put forth kind of before you start whatever it is that you're starting is going to have a direct correlation to the level of success you could potentially achieve. So when you have this task, this project, this goal, this activity, whatever it might be, take the time on the front end to figure out beginning, middle, and end. Extra work. 100% extra work, but ask yourself this question: what's I guess less work? Putting in a little bit of extra work in the planning time, or completing 90% just to have to redo it because you can't seal the deal, you can't finish the drill.
Right. And I think it goes both ways too. 100% putting more time in at the beginning to strategize the beginning, middle, and end is going to get you further. But I'm not going to lie, doing physically doing and practicing the game also, or the activity, also helps you figure out mistakes that you might make. And that's why we give people time sometimes, or a lot of time, to practice. So we like, you know what, this one's not going to count. You know what, go ahead and practice, do your thing, figure it out. And that's their time to that's their time and ours to see how their mind develops and what their strategy is going to come out to be, if they're going to have a beginning, middle, and end, and if they can problem solve during the practice time. So when the game time begins, they're able to essentially finish. And I think there's another analogy to it too, where if you're playing a game and you're doing really, really well, you're winning, you're up, you're crushing it. Like you can't 100% rely on that momentum. The clock's not over, time's not done. If I don't want to say if you're not used to winning, but if you're uncomfortable at that spot and you get nervous, you're not going to be able to finish. So I think there's a big part of this analogy of getting that last 10% is essentially almost just as important as the beginning.
100%. And in anything that you do, there's always variables that you kind of have to figure out and navigate. So I don't want anybody to misconstrue, your initial planning phase is not going to be perfect, right? But if you can think about what might work at the start, try it out. What might work in the middle, try it out. What might work at the end, try it out. Eliminate what doesn't work. You're narrowing, all right, instead of we can do these 15 different things to complete the goal, achieve the goal. We narrowed it down to 2. We know one of these things is going to work based on kind of the outside variables that are a lot of times out of our control. So,
and I think that's one of the easy.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's one of the easiest things to facilitate at Empower when we're at a program that we're hired for is that part of it of people see it more clearly of why we're there when we start talking about that. Does that make sense? So okay, obviously pipeline is the easiest to talk about, but when we have the analogy of okay, you got into the bucket 4 times in a row and you can't finish it. What happened at the beginning where on your strategy to decide who's going to put it in or what's going to happen there? How can that relate to your job, your sport, your school, your whatever your whatever your life is like? That's one of the easiest things that we can relate to of why we're actually doing this activity. Who gives a crap about a ball in a bucket? This is why we're here.
Yep. Learning how to finish what you start, and again, oversimplified for this because we're hoping this is something that people can take into whatever their livelihood is, or their whether they're a student or an employee or an owner of a business or a coach. In any of your planning, your preparation moments, it's always important to consider start, middle, and end. You don't want to be the person or the team that can get off to a great start and then struggles the second half, or the individual that makes it through the first quarter of the school year gets a little uncertain and then kind of hits that tank. So little extra work, but is that little extra work is going to be more valuable on the front end before you're trying to build a plane and fly it at the same time.
100%.
Hey, simple message, right? Planning phase, think about beginning, middle, and end. Know that it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to shorten up the parameters and get you pointed in the right direction towards finding success in whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah, and I'll say it again. It makes a big project that it might be, or a big goal at the end of the season, or a school year, look a little easier because you have a game plan to finish.
Yep. Love it. Love it. Hey, Zach, good one, man. It's a nice, short and sweet episode here. Thanks for checking out the Lead with Empower podcast. We're going to have a couple new episodes coming out here in the next week or so. And, get out there, attack what it is that you're trying to attack, but always consider start, middle, end, and go out there and dominate.
Let's go, baby. Thank you, Dad.
Thanks, Zach.